Hi everyone, this is Fionapollo and I do art commentary. First off, what do we think of the stills? I mean, you all kept saying that mint looked like Amity, so what do you think? Do you think it's cute? I think it's cute. I might actually keep them. Secondly, as we are all well aware, the final episode of The Owl House is quickly approaching, and I don't know about anyone else, but I'm honestly not ready to let it go. It's been such an amazing ride watching Luz, Ida, King, and all the other characters, but soon, after all the trials and tribulations and witch hunts, this series will soon come to a close after making a gigantic impression on the world of animation. And personally, I am so grateful for everything this show has done. It has tackled so many themes and current issues such as mental illness, chronic health, conflicts of historical account, parental loss. It even broke ground by having the protagonist be in a queer relationship, all while having a spectacular story and incredible animation and visuals to boot. Do I have a few gripes and nitpicks? I mean, sure, but there's no escaping that. We're always gonna have those. But overall, I think this is one of the very best animated shows we have had in a while, and my issues with it are more so a byproduct of how it got messed over by TV executives and just that longing for what could have been, you know? The fact that the bigwigs in suits only regretted their actions after seeing the impact of Season 3's first episode had on social media really just enforces that these old men don't know what they're doing with the material they're in charge of. But that's a rant for a different day. Today I wanted to do something fun and lighthearted, okay? I've had enough of screaming about how animation and webcomics and whatever other industry are crumbling around us for a moment. I am weak. I need a break from all of that despair. So before the final episode airs and the series wraps up for good, I wanted to take a crack at devising a fan theory that may be quite interesting to mull over as we say our final goodbye to Luz and the crew. So both me and my partner worked on this together, and it revolves around the two arguably most mysterious characters in the show, the Collector and King. I think you already know where we're going with it, so let's not delay. If you like this video, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, let us know what you think of our theory, and if you have any of your own, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Also, could you imagine if this ended up being canon in the final episode? I mean, it won't, it obviously won't, but man, I remember how frazzled people used to get about shows like Steven Universe theories as that was unfolding, and when the reveal happened, oh my god, it was an outcry. It was great. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. This is about The Owl House, not Steven Universe, though I am considering a video on that, so comment below if you want that. Alright, let's begin! Part 1. The Theory. So we're all hopefully well aware by now that Titans and Collectors are likely some of the first, or at the least, the most prominent magical beings in the demon realm, and that the realm itself is overflowing with magical energy, given that Titans are beings of immense magical potential. We also know that when Belos was absorbing the magic and life force of Palismen, it gave him the power he needed to temporarily keep in control of his physical form. So we would like to propose to you that the Titans are the failed experimental Palismen of the Collectors. Now, for this theory, it's important to know that the present-day examples we have of both the Collectors and the Titans, that being the Child Collector and King, are outliers in their species, and not wholly representative of the historical relationship between the two. However, we will view their relationship through the lens of the Titans and Collectors' shared morbid history, and how it could come into play later on with the ending of the most recent episode, that being Season 3, Episode 2. As described by Kikimora in King's Tide, the Collector is a child of the stars, a being from a race that we can assume did not originate on the Boiling Isles. So we can also hazard a guess that maybe this means that they have brought magic and other such properties to the first inhabitants of the demon realm, if there even were any inhabitants yet at the time before they got there. We still don't really have a way of knowing if the Collectors predated the Titans, which is the basis of this theory. From episodes such as Knock Knock Knocking on Hootie's Door, Edge of the World, and most recently, For the Future, we can infer that the Collectors are a celestial race of archivists who go about different realms, collecting bestial entities, and trapping them in a sort of magical subspace like scrolls, in a similar way to Ida's Owl Beast, a being which notably overtook Ida when seeing the Collector and became infuriated by it. It's still pretty uncertain for what purpose they do this. Maybe it's for some kind of zoo, maybe it's to spread their magical influence from different realms and preside over them like rulers. Either way, they do so with a mastery of their craft, a sense of knowing intent, and even an iron fist if the Collector's Codex is anything to go by. That said, they don't seem to be the most tolerant species either, as noted in the scribbled out Codex entry shown in For the Future, where it states, "Should someone meddle in their affairs, they'll clean the planet and scorch the earth." Their current portrayal in the show with this in mind likens them to a race of colonizers and even puts them in league with Belos, though we have no way of knowing just yet how deep that runs. It's my understanding that the Collectors may well be the blueprint for how Belos went about his plan to wipe out all witches. This then brings us onto the topic of the Titans, the colossal creatures that originally inhabited the demon realm before being hunted to extinction by the Collectors and their loyal followers, the Titan Trappers. The Titans, ironically, are much more fleshed out, yet still mysterious on a chronological level. They're Their entire being makes up the setting of the show. The bones of a Titan lay the foundations of the very society that the main characters live in and how they are able to use magic in the first place. But we aren't exactly privy to how that played out, nor how they came to inherit so much magical potential. It's more than likely we'll get an explanation to this when the final episode airs, if the trailers are anything to go by, but as of right now, if I'm on time with my editing, this video should be out exactly 1 week from the episode's premiere. One of the biggest clues we have for this theory is Belos' habit of killing and absorbing the magical energy and life force of Palismen. That very magic is manipulated by Belos to exploit the society that he finds himself in, and it's theorized that the Titan itself gave Luz the resources to save everyone from its own flesh and body, and this is something Belos even theorizes himself. So why were the Titans and Collectors in such fierce opposition to one another? This theory proposes the idea that is present within the core themes of the Owl House's narrative, questioning the legitimacy of the authority governing you. We see this with several characters questioning Belos and his coven system, and even Luz and Camilla against how the American school system treats those with neurodivergency. Therefore, this theory proposes that the Titans themselves rebelled against the Collectors when they realized the extent of what their masters/companions were doing. If we ascribe to the notion that perhaps the reason the Titans are able to go toe-to-toe with the Collectors is because both species' magic has a common source, we can also theorize that this could be because one of the species was perhaps created, or perhaps had magic bestowed upon them by the other. Being a celestial species with no other creatures that measure up to you must be quite lonely. We can see how happy the Collector becomes when he makes friends and demands they play games with him. Even though the Collectors are portrayed as bloodthirsty and cruel, how do we know that they may not have also wanted to seek out some form of companionship? And nowhere else is the companionship we see among magic users and other creatures exemplified quite like the relationship between witches and the Palismen. But of course, this is still only speculation for now, so with that, let's take a look at some evidence. Part 2. The evidence. So to preface this, we do just need to remember again that King and the Collector are outliers in their species. King was raised by Ida, who had a penchant for wild magic and common rebellious thievery, but with a clear moral centre. The Collector had Belos, an apathetic, revenge-obsessed douchebag with the morals of... I'm not reading that out loud. However, what we can gauge from their interactions is that the Collector trusts King above all else and seems almost desperate to bond with him to the capacity that King did with Luz, as seen in For the Future. If we hold the theory that the Titans rebelled against the Collector race for not wanting to destroy all life in the Demon Realm, as even in the Deadwardian period pre-Belos, the citizens of Bonesborough revered the Titan name as a figure of protection, or just outright disagreeing with their philosophies, something we also witnessed when the Collector himself scribbled out the Scorched Earth portion of the codex he gives to King to read to him, giving us the hint that he would prefer to befriend the Titans, then the Collector wanting to befriend King and earn his trust may be something of him going back to the roots of the Titans' creation by wanting King as his Palismen. The Collector mentioned knowing King's father, the original Titan, and him not wanting the Collector to play with King, much like how the Collectors did with other creatures that the Titans witnessed. The Titan, presumably King's father, sealed the Collector away in another dimension, only to exist through broken mirrors as a shadow puppet. It is interesting that a Titan chose not to kill a Collector child, because as seen with the cult surrounding the Collectors, the Titan Trappers, they have no qualms themselves about killing Titan children and wearing their skulls as decoration, which possibly happened after they rebelled. This further extends that the Titans were more benevolent and forgiving in nature in contrast to how their masters were. This makes King and the Collector falling out at the end of Season 3, Episode 2 even more tragic, because in a way, history is repeating itself. The Collector, manipulated by Belos, overhears that King wants a more permanent solution in dealing with him, albeit not realizing that King means this in a diplomatic way and not, a permadeath kind of way. So much like the Collector's ancestors who dealt a swift blow to the opposing rebellions, he decides to play a new game and deal with King's intelligence and rebellion. In the Collector's eyes at this moment, his people were proven correct. Titans cannot be befriended and they will always be looking to trick you. In regards to Titans being Palismen, however, there is one ingredient needed to bring a Palismen into the world, and it just so happens to grow on the Boiling Isle itself, almost like a gift of life from the Titan, and that is palistrum wood. The Titans have the capacity to grow palistrum wood, but it needs a hand to carve it. Similarly, the Collector gives Belos the ingredient list for Grimwalkers, sentient life made from other raw materials harvested around the Boiling Isles. The Collectors may have started the first steps of creating sentient life on their own, but realized a mistake in making the Titans too powerful and morally independent, hence how they managed to refine the Grimwalker recipe to become more subservient, and why the Collector we see today being apathetic towards Hunter but not towards the Titans, who he possibly seems to have shreds of sympathy for considering their fate, and outright rejects parts of the collector philosophy. Going back to magical potential, where do beings like Luz stand who are only able to perform magic via glyphs and seemingly with no connection to the collectors with this in mind? Where do these glyphs originate? Although the body of the Titan gives those who are native to the demon realm a biological means to do magic, as we see from how Luz learns from observing the nature of the Boiling Isles, an alternative means of this feat, even though it may be observed on the Titan, hasn't been made explicitly clear that it only originates from the Boiling Isles and not the demon realm as a whole. If we go back to season 1, Luz learns the ice glyph from seeing it within snowflakes that are falling from the stars. So how are we to know whether or not the glyph magic actually originates from the collectors and manifests both from the stars as well as any being that they choose to imbue their magic into? The collector race are archivists. They observe, experiment, and capture that which can be useful or interesting to them. It makes sense that the Titans observed their masters doing this and learned ways to communicate and cast magic with other creatures that didn't naturally evolve from their own remains to those they deemed worthy. And this may well have been done via glyphs well before Luz, or even Philip for that matter, stepped onto the Isles. There certainly are some interesting tidbits that tie a bit too well together here, don't you think? But alas, let's move on to our final section and wrap things up. Part 3, Wait and See. So when we bring all of this together, we are faced with the concept that not only did the collectors possibly create the Titans, therefore being responsible for life as we know it in regards to the demon realm, and especially the Boiling Isles, but they may have even imbued their own magical properties onto them. But then, when the Titans started to develop minds and feelings of their own enough to question their former masters, the collectors decided to turn around and nip the Titans' existence in the bud by carrying out the extinction of an entire species. As well as this, we even have room to speculate that this shared magical source feeds into the glyphs, leading us to believe that the magic Luz uses throughout the series may not have wholly originated from the Titan, but maybe even the stars. But, of course, the only way we now have any chance of finding this stuff out is by watching the final episode. But I have to say, I'll be intrigued to see what the final episode brings about regarding the mystery surrounding these two characters. What would happen if King turned out to be a Palismen? Would the collector have to come to terms with his own species' past, his insecurities, his own desires in order to make such a connection with King? Would such a companionship be the key to stopping the chaos unfolding on the Boiling Isles? I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Honestly, I really love this show, and I wish I'd had more chances to talk about it and draw more fan art and just be generally involved with the fandom before its runtime was cut so short. It truly is a show that will have a special place in my heart for quite some time. Thank you to Dana Terrace and the hardworking crew who made such a story possible, and thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked this video, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I normally do stuff like surface dives and video essays, but I also like to dabble in other little projects like this one from time to time. Helps keep things fresh, you know? A big thank you to my partner for pretty much doing the bulk of the research for this. Do you agree with our points? Do you have any counter-arguments or counter-theories you'd like to put forth? Please let us know. Stay safe, everyone, and I will speak to you very soon. Bye!